Today I have set up for you some slides that will kind of take you through some learning where you're able to try some things out and be able to discover some things on your own. So I want to show you just a few glimpses of that for the Desmos. So once you log in, you're going to have, this is your first slide. The goal is, so you'll have directions over here to get all the stars, to get to know radicals. So you click launch. And the marble eats all the stars, and so then you get a success. So your next screen, and the next several screens, I will give you an equation. And the directions are to change one number in the row below to fix the marble slide. So I currently have it as a +1. So maybe I do a +6. So if you noticed, the marble slide went up. So maybe it shouldn't be +1, maybe it should be -1. So your job is that when you hit launch, the marbles the marbles take out all of your stars. So in this particular slide, you're just changing one number. So we'll fast forward. You have several screens like that where you are fixing. If for some reason you really whack out the equation and you need to be able to reset it, if you hit the little wheelie guy, you can hit reset and it'll go back to the original equation. So we have a couple slides. This one, what would happen to the graph if we change the -1, this -1 to a +2? And so you're going to submit the new equation, and you'll type to get the square root sign, you're going to type an SQRT, and then it'll show up. So you're going to type a new equation, and then you're going to give me an explanation. How would the graph be transformed? You're going to use one of these words in that. And then you're going to go ahead and using these, you've got lines, you have points, you can change the color here. You're going to use that to draw your graph. Make your prediction, and then the next slide is to verify. So go ahead and change the equation. What happens to it? So you have several slides. So you have another fix it. You're going to be changing under the radical. You're going to be changing that, hitting launch, trying to get that. And then you have another predict and verify. And now we have a combo. This time you're going to change two of the numbers to get the marble slide to shift or to translate up and down, left and right. So we have a couple combos. Now with this combo, if you notice, we changed it to a -x underneath. Notice it reflects it over the y-axis. It says to add two numbers. So maybe we're going to put a +2 and a -3 or something like that. You want to add two of those numbers here, and it will give you a new graph. So you have a fixed combo number 2, a number 3. Now we're changing the number outside the radical. And then you have a predict. So question 1, what happens to the graph if the A is negative? So what happens if this guy is negative? How does it change the graph? And you will graph it using a red graph. And then question number 2, in both of those you'll respond down here. Question number 2, what happens to the graph when the B is negative? So what happens when this value is negative? And you will graph it using a green graph. And so you'll draw two graphs on there. And then we have verify your prediction. And so then you go to these challenges. And in these challenges, I have set up for you 4 equations. And when you launch the ball, what you'll notice is it takes out those stars, but it needs to be cut off. So this alters the domain. It cuts off part of your graph. So you may need to add a domain restriction on these 3. You can change any of these values. They look pretty well set up. Looks like the only thing you're really dealing with is cutting off the graphs or that domain. So we have a couple challenges. This one you're going to add as many graphs as you need. I believe this one can actually be done with 2 equations. You're going to add 2 equations or maybe more so that when you launch your marble, it will get all of your stars. So you have a couple of these challenges. And there isn't necessarily a right answer. There's a minimum number of equations that you could do. But if you look at this one, probably you could get a graph that goes this direction, and then maybe a graph that comes back, and maybe that direction, or maybe you could do a couple different things here. So you need to do as many equations as you need, but don't forget you can cut off those graphs and have, using those curly braces. The curly braces are located near the P on your keyboard. And so here's yet another challenge. So you have a total of 6 challenges. And then you have a card match. You're going to have some leftover cards in this card match. To match the cards, you basically are going to say, well, I think this is the equation that goes with that graph, and this is the domain and range that goes with that graph. You will match the cards. You will have leftover cards. I want you, if they're leftover, leave them separate, and then I will take a look. It is super important. If you don't get one, you have 2 days to do this. If you don't get one, send me a message, but hopefully that helps.